Okay, so creative iMedia class, we are at the stage where we need to select our best images. What I would like you to do is this: go through all of your images and select 10 to 12 of your best photographs, making sure they are suitable and remembering what the brief is asking of you. Here's a reminder of the brief. A local company of architects wish to promote the local area with a display of photographs on the theme of the built environment. So your theme is the built environment. You are looking to display these photographs. The photographs will need to be displayed in an exhibition gallery and be included in a printed magazine rediscovering architecture. The final portfolio of photographs that you need to submit need to be suitable for both purposes. Well, we are at the stage of just selecting those 10, and just before we prepare those images ready for printing and exhibiting. If I go forward, you need to take a series of digital photographs and select the best. The photographic portfolio should contain images of buildings or their features. We have chosen to showcase Hayes School. I want you to place each of your best images on a separate slide. So you need to do this, what I'm about to show you, 10 times. So here's one I found in the folder, a very good one, of the street. I want you to put a short description. So here I've got an example, an interior shot of the street at Hayes School featuring a colorful metal and glass structure. You need to place the metadata on each slide. Now I've extracted the metadata. Now I'm about to break down what that actually means. So first we have the aperture, the f-stop. Here we have f/8. Next we have the exposure time, or the shutter speed, that's 1/400. And then we have the ISO, which in this case is 100. Now using the exposure triangle, I'm going to break down what that actually means. The aperture is f/8, means it appears here on the exposure triangle towards this side of the aperture. So we have a deep depth of field. So f/8 means it was not allowing much light in, but it meant you had a deeper depth of field, which is why everything is pretty much in focus. If it was towards this end, it would have a shallow depth of field, but here we have a deep depth of field because the aperture is at f/8. If I pick out the shutter speed, which in this instance is 1/400th of a second, it appears around about here. So around about this side of this strip, we have less motion blur. So you would say the shutter speed was 1/400, which produced less motion blur. And lastly, the ISO was 100, so there was very little grain in the image. So you need to do this for the 10 images that you've selected. If I go forward one more time, why is it a good picture? So you would say something like the image is well exposed. We talk about exposure when taking the picture. So overexposed, too bright; underexposed, too dark. And there are lots of leading lines. So in this instance, we've got lots of leading lines that draw the viewer's attention to the large structure. How can you improve the picture? You could say, I will experiment with cropping if you want to experiment with that, rotating if your image is slightly wonky, or you can adjust the level, so that's brightening the picture. So here's an overview of what you need to talk about. Is it correctly exposed? Is it in focus? Is there noise and grain? And is the photograph well composed? Is there an example of rule of thirds, symmetry, framing, or is it leading lines, the main point of your picture? Do the following for all of your 10 to 12 best photographs. So describe the photograph briefly, extract the metadata using the exposure triangle, comment on the composition, rule of thirds, leading lines, symmetry, and how will you adjust it? So mention levels, cropping, and rotating. So here's a reminder of what you need to do. Play back this video until you understand it, and I will provide you with this PowerPoint too. Okay.